Learning to bake cookies is a rite of passage for every new baker. But did you know that baking is also a few different science experiments all rolled into one? Learning the science behind baking could help you produce the perfect chocolate chip cookie. I've worked in kitchens for over 13 years. Most of those years were spent baking. Learning the basics behind baking have allowed me to move on to more advanced baking techniques. No two recipes are the same when it comes to cookies. However, their methods are very similar. It's also important to know which ingredients to choose when it comes to the recipe. In supermarkets, there's so many options. Knowing the difference could help you make a proper baked good. This is the famous Nestle Toll House chocolate chip cookie recipe. It's tried and true, and I've made it many times and many variations of this exact recipe. Here you can follow step by step, starting from the butter all the way down to the chocolate chips. In the book How Baking Works, written by P. Figoni in 2011, Figoni stated, "Because small differences in method and proportions of ingredients can have a large effect on quality of baked goods, it is crucial that bakers and pastry chefs follow methods of preparation carefully and measure ingredients." Recipes are the instructions of the baking world, and making sure that you measure and weigh properly are the keys to success. Starting out, all ingredients should be room temperature. This will allow for the butter to be emulsified properly into the mix. This method is called creaming. By mixing the butter, the sugar, and the brown sugar all together, this will allow for air to be incorporated to make it more fluffy. After the creaming process, we add the eggs. You want to add each egg individually and make sure it's fully incorporated before adding the next. Once the eggs have been added, we'll add the vanilla extract. Vanilla extract is an alcohol that will evaporate during the baking process, but will leave a vanilla scent to the cookies. There are many different versions of vanilla extract. There's pure vanilla, there's imitation vanilla, and vanilla flavorings. You can use whichever one you like. However, pure vanilla will give you the most flavor, and the other ones will have a chemical flavor to them. In an NPR article called Cookie Baking Chemistry by Micheline Duclef stated, "By playing around with the ingredients in your recipe, you can tweak the reactions and engineer your ideal cookie." When it comes to the dry ingredients, many different options will arise. However, you want to choose all-purpose flour for this recipe. All-purpose flour is pre-sifted, which just means that it's been put through a fine sieve, so it's a more fine powder. You do not need to sift in recipes unless the recipe calls to be sifted again. After the flour, you want to add the baking powder and the salt. Baking soda is 4 times the reaction rate of baking powder, but these ingredients are not interchangeable. As stated in the Cookie Bible in 2012, because baking soda is alkaline, it releases carbon dioxide bubbles when combined with an acidic ingredient, such as brown sugar and molasses. Baking soda has less lift, but will allow for more spreading and a darker browning. When it comes to baking cookies, this is when all the experiments start to happen. In a video by Ted Ed and Stephanie Warren called The Chemistry of Cookies from 2013, they showed how butter is an emulsification of butter fats and water. When baking, the water expands into steam, creating pockets of air that cause the dough to rise. The molasses and the brown sugar will also start to liquefy and reacting with the baking soda, causing more bubbles and more spread. The cooking temperature on this recipe is 375 degrees. I personally like to use 350 degrees because it will give less color on the cookie and it'll be more chewy. Once you have the basics down, you can add your own flair to the cookies, maybe nuts or dried fruits. You don't have to be afraid of making mistakes. That's just what science is. Even in my 13 years of experience, I make mistakes here and there during baking. It's all about trial and error. Science doesn't have to be boring, it can also be really tasty.